Today, on the way back from the third date, where I felt nervous, wondering if I might be rejected, Yuko stopped in front of the entrance of the apartment building where she lives alone, turned around, and bowed to me.
I hope we can continue seeing each other.
In the context of a matchmaking agency, this means she's hoping for a serious relationship with marriage in mind. I couldn't believe what was happening, and my mind went blank for a moment. I mean, I'm a 43-year-old factory worker, didn't go to the university, and only earn $30,000 a year. In contrast, Susan is a university graduate working for a top-tier company, earning $70,000 a year at 38. It seems completely we are mismatched, and among all the potential partners I've met through marriage agencies, I can confidently say that she is by far the most favorable candidate. Susan was adorable with a charming personality that naturally made people smile. On the other hand, I was shy and struggled to have a conversation, had no experience with women, and was always rejected before even reaching the next date stage in arranged meetings. I believe that this is influenced by my own past experience. When I was 4, a drunk man threw away a cigarette, and it accidentally ignited the combustible trash outside. This incident caused a fire that engulfed our house.
Please, save Bob.
Amidst the raging blaze, my mother handed me over to a firefighter from the debris. I barely survived, but when my parents were rescued, they had already passed away. After that, during discussions at the funeral, it was decided that I would be taken in by distant relatives in Tokyo, but shortly after I started living with them, I was put in a facility. Having closed off my heart after losing my parents, I was bullied by the other children at the facility and classmates, leading to a dark and lonely childhood. After graduating from high school and leaving the facility, I started working in a factory, but I find it difficult to communicate well with not only friends but also with my colleagues. When I thought about facing a lonely old age, I was overwhelmed by loneliness and fear. That was when I visited a marriage agency, hoping to find someone who would accept me despite my shortcomings. I'm sorry, but I don't understand why you would be interested in me. I accidentally let my true feelings slip. Then, Susan gave me an elegant smile.
You're wrong to say that you have no redeeming features. I was drawn to your sincere and kind personality.
After saying that, her face clouded over.
But once you hear about me, you might change your mind.
What she confessed was that she had become unable to have children due to endometriosis she suffered from when she was young. That's why she had not been able to get married until now, despite her good conditions.
If you wish to be with a young woman who can bear children, I am prepared to accept that.
As she said that, I could see a tinge of sadness on her face, even though she tried to hide it. I clenched my fists and looked into Susan's eyes. The woman I want to marry is not someone who can bear children, but you, Susan. My feelings will not change. At that moment, a tear trickled down from Susan's eyes.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
From that day on, we began a serious relationship with marriage in mind. Because of Yuko's frequent business trips both domestically and internationally, we had to schedule our dates according to her availability, giving priority to her busy schedule.
I'm sorry we don't get to see each other very often.
Susan had a guilty expression, but her thoughtfulness in contacting me frequently no matter how busy she was made me very happy. Even when we couldn't see each other, I felt that she was thinking about me, and her warmth was transmitted through her emails. After going on several dates and visiting each other's homes, I found out she was terrible at housework. Apparently, It was because she had lived with her parents for a long time, and they had a housekeeper at home, so she never had the opportunity to learn household tasks from her mother. After starting living by herself, she tried to do the chores herself but wasn't good at it, and being swamped with work left her with no time. As a result, she currently has a housekeeper come in twice a week to clean and do the laundry, and she usually eats out or relies on meals from supermarkets, said embarrassedly.
To be honest, one of the major reasons why I've not been able to get married up until now is that I can't do housework. After meeting you, Bob, I thought I should practice and get better at it, but it seems I haven't improved at all.
I was both surprised and relieved to discover this aspect of her, considering she appears to be perfect with her excellent work performance, intelligence, and kindness. It made her feel more endearing and charming to me. I've lived alone for a long time, so I'm used to housework and even enjoy it. I think the one who's good at it should do it. I smiled and placed the freshly baked macaroni gratin on the table. Just watching her happily eating the gratin, blowing on it to cool it down, and saying, "This is so delicious," made me feel truly content. A year later, I proposed to Susan. I thought of various places to propose, like a restaurant with a beautiful night view or a beautiful beach at sunset, but I decided it would be best to do it in my own style, in my own room. After treating her to a special dinner, I placed an engagement ring on the dessert plate. "Susan, will you marry me?" With those simple words, devoid of any pretension, Susan smiled and replied, "Yes, with pleasure," and I put the ring on her left ring finger. It may not have been so romantic, but for me, it felt like an incredibly euphoric, almost dreamlike happiness. A month after the proposal, I was scheduled to visit Susan's parents' home, but I was so nervous. Her father works for a top-tier company and is an elite with experience working in the United States and Singapore. I thought there was no way that such parents would accept someone like me.
This is the apartment where my parents live.
Looking up at the sky as Susan said that, I was in awe. It was a high-rise apartment building in a prime location of New York. I had been wondering what kind of mansion they lived in, but I never expected it to be an apartment.
We used to live in a house, but when I started living alone and because it was just the two of them, they moved to an apartment.
The fact that they didn't hold the conventional belief that a home is for life suggested they have a lot of experience overseas. Being in the elevator, it felt like a long journey until we reached the 38th floor, where her parents lived. Sweat trickled down my forehead, and my knees trembled slightly from nervousness.
Don't be so stiff. My parents are laid-back people, so it'll be all right.
I tried to return Susan's words with a smile, but my cheeks spasmed, and I couldn't smile properly. When the doorbell rang, a sophisticated woman, Susan's mother, responded after a while and opened the front door for us.
"Welcome, please come in."
Despite being greeted with a friendly smile, my heart was pounding loudly and I could barely manage to bow. Thanks to Susan's gentle prompt with her eyes, I managed to hand over the high-end confectionery shop's cake I brought as a gift. I was led by her mother through a long corridor to the living room. The living room was spacious, with large windows, giving it a feeling of openness that made me forget they were in an apartment. On a large sofa, there was an elegant gentleman with silver gray hair, casually sipping his coffee. As I was thinking, indeed, people from the upper class are different, Susan's father narrowed his eyes upon noticing me.
"Hey there, we've been waiting for you. Please, take a seat."
Guided by Susan, I sat down next to her and faced her parents. I was trembling all over with tension. Without a doubt, I had never ever been so nervous in my over 40 years of life. Nice to meet you. I'm Bob Custard. I've been seeing Susan. As I bowed deeply, I felt a change in the atmosphere above my head. When I lifted my face, her parents looked surprised.
Custard.
My last name is quite rare, and they exchanged glances, seemingly curious.
What are your parents' names?
I was wondering why she would ask such a thing, but I said, my father's name is Liam, and my mother's is Emma. Come to think of it, I have one old photo left. When I pulled out my wallet, I took out an old photo from it and showed it to Susan's parents. It was a picture of me as a baby, held by my mother, with my father smiling next to us. At that moment, Susan's held their breath.
No way.
Suddenly, Susan's mother started to sob, and her father looked down, shaking as he clenched his fists. I thought they were sympathizing with me, but their reaction was far from ordinary.
As a matter of fact, our families have known each other since we were children. We're from the same small town.
Her father said, "Really? Is that true?" Taken aback by the surprising coincidence, her parents began to tell stories from the past. Apparently, they were born and raised in a rural area and went to the same high school together. After graduating from high school, my parents stayed in our small town. They got married, my father took over the family farm, and my mom helped him. Meanwhile, Susan's parents moved to New York. Her father went to college, and her mom got a job. After her father graduated, they got married. Even though they were apart, they kept in touch with each other and visited during Thanksgiving and Christmas. But when Susan's father got transferred to work in Canada, they could only communicate by letters and couldn't meet for a long time. Then, they lost contact. When they returned home temporarily with baby Susan, they found out that my parents had passed away a year before. They were heartbroken to hear that only their son had survived a fire, but they were relieved to know that I had relatives who could take care of me. They had to return to Canada soon, so they couldn't meet me.
If we had been living in America, we would have taken Bob in.
Susan's mother said apologetically.
Bob's parents were the ones who brought us together.
What? In their student days, Susan's father was mean to Susan's mother, whom he liked, and she didn't like him. My father convinced Susan's father by saying, "If you like her, don't be mean to her." And my mother cleared up Susan's mother's misunderstanding by saying, "William just likes Olivia so much, that's why he can't stop it." Thanks to this, their feelings for each other grew closer. The year I was born, Susan's parents got married, and my parents, with baby me in tow, attended their wedding. Susan's mother held me and joked to my parents, "If we have a daughter, maybe we should betroth them."
I can't believe such a thing could happen.
Susan's mother spoke nostalgically. Listening to the story, I was moved by the miraculous encounter, but I also felt daunted about marrying her, so I expressed my honest feelings. Actually, I was raised in an orphanage. I'm just a high school graduate working in a factory. My salary isn't even half of what Susan makes. I don't think I'm the right man for her. When I negated myself like that, Susan looked sad and called out, "Bob." I squeezed her hand and then faced her parents again. But I promise, I love Susan more than anyone else, and I always will. Hearing my vow, her parents smiled at each other.
We want you to make Susan happy. Please take good care of her.
Susan's father gripped my hand firmly, and I gripped back just as firmly. Susan and her mother were looking at us with smiles.
Daddy, hurry up. Come on, Mom. You too.
Being tugged on by the children, I exchanged smiles with Susan. After we got married, we decided to adopt 2 children from the orphanage where I grew up. We thought a life just for the 2 of us would also be great, but we both liked children, and having known the loneliness of being parentless, I wanted to give these children a warm home. That's why we decided to adopt them. But once we did, we felt that the children were giving us so many smiles and so much happiness.
Hey Daddy, you'll cook us a fancy dinner because Mom is home today, right? I want a burger and curry.
Being pestered by the children, I answered enthusiastically, "All right, let's make burger curry today."
Yay!
The kids were overjoyed. I truly cherish the happiness of having people I love and people who love me. Susan is still busy with work, flying around the country and overseas every day. Now she has a position with 500 employees under her. Meanwhile, the factory where I work has reduced working hours due to the recession, and my salary has decreased significantly. Because of that, I'm taking care of all the housework and drop off and pick up the kids every day. The kids tease me, saying dad's like mom and mom's like dad. I'm sorry I'm putting a burden on Susan because I don't make much money. I apologized, feeling guilty, and Susan laughed.
Bob, you know I'm not good at doing housework. I should be thanking you. You take care of the children and always help me. This kind of partnership is also wonderful. The most important thing is that we are happy together.
Seeing Susan's radiant smile, I pledged to myself that I'll protect that smile forever.